vote on in these matters, because it is the council who legislates this way.
She doesn't have a vote, but she has a
As I said before, we would like it Saturday. We all need to move on. We would really love to keep this meeting to a minimum of 2 hours. If the council has discussion, we can do that.
I hope
we
you
do
meant a
not
maximum
have
of 2 hours.
Me too.
maximum, excuse me, maximum of 2 hours. That's why he was excited over there. So, council, the floor is yours.
I've made the motion. I have no further discussion.
Okay, we ready to vote? Bill?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
My vote is yes. The ordinance 2007-0-7 passes unanimously.
Is there
It
going to
is
be
in the
public comment
hands of-
at all in
No,
this
they
meeting?
just refused it.
No, there is no public comment on this meeting. It's not in our agenda, and every time we allow public comment, it takes a little too long. So I apologize.
I would like to make a motion or a request of Mr. Hogue that he sit in the public section rather than at the table where staff sits. And I would ask for a second on that.
I'll be glad to second that.
There's been a motion to have Mr. Hogue move as part of the audience and not as part of city staff, sitting with the table with city staff. Any discussion on this motion?
Is it that vital that we have him sit in the audience?
I think it's vital that Mr. Hogue understand that the council does not consider him the administrative services director.
I agree.
He has been up at the legislature presenting himself as that. He's been before the leagues of cities and towns presenting himself as that. And quite frankly, he can't be that without the consent of the council, and the mayor doesn't have that consent. And we just need everybody to understand that this is a total misrepresentation of Mr. Hogue's position at this point. I don't know what his position is, but I know that it's not administrative services director, and I know it's not mayor's assistant, because we don't have a mayor's assistant, and he hasn't, and the mayor has never received the advice and consent of the council to make him the administrative services director. So we want it fully understood that he, at this point, is not a member of staff, and and the council doesn't consider him to be such.
Well put.
Dave, you and I had a discussion back a couple of months ago, a few months ago, about the concept of advice and consent. And your feeling was, at least it seemed to be characterized to me, that your feeling was that it was more a formality. And that, I hate to call it a rubber stamp because I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't believe you said that. But that it was a formality and that the council should approve the mayor's hirings and firings. I disagree with that characterization of the law. I don't think that that provision would be in the law if it weren't meant to mean something. If the council were simply to rubber stamp every appointment made by the mayor, then there would be no reason for that provision to be in the code or in our city ordinances. And because it's there, and because the city council is the governing body of a city, I believe it's there for a reason. And when the city council feels strongly about an appointment, that vote taken by the city council needs to be respected. And so for that reason, I have made this motion that, until this gets resolved, I believe it is appropriate for you to sit in the public seating rather than in the seats where we have our attorney and our department heads sit. And so that's why I made this motion.
Can I respond to that?
I think it's only fair that you respond since I've characterized a discussion that we had.
As you know, the mayor hired me for this position. She felt in her own attorneys advising her that she did not have to have the advice and the consent of the council. I didn't make that decision. Yes, you and I did have a discussion to that effect, but it was not that it was just that they should get their advice and consent in every appointment. But what I did say was that that was up to a legal decision as to whether or not it should happen. Now, because I've been hired by the mayor, I still consider myself under that hiring, and there's going to be a discussion with the council's attorneys or whoever that's going to have to work this out. But until that time, I don't intend to step down until I'm instructed to by a court of law or instructed to by the mayor. And you know, I mean, if you feel like that I'm in an inappropriate place, I'm just stating what I've been hired at. So I've been, you know, you say I've been up there to being illegal, but there's city managers, there's city administrators in the League of Cities and Towns as well. It's not just me there. I mean, half of those people on that legislative committee are that way. And besides city council people as well. Now you say I don't represent, you've already passed a resolution 2 or 3 weeks ago that said you didn't recognize me, nor would you ever recognize me. And it's unfortunate because we're just getting things moving ahead in the city and things are working out really well. The staff is responding well. We've got a great staff. I'm not running into any major problems now that we've been able to overcome the issues of passwords and a few other things that the council weren't going to give us, weren't going to give me, but we were able to overcome those. And we're going forward. It's not something that should be confronting at this point until you get your counsel or your attorneys in court to decide this. Obviously, this is going to happen. I'm sure that there'll be a lawsuit filed for this too, and it's unfortunate. But I think that the city can move forward, and it is moving forward, and we're making some progress. We have in the last couple of weeks, and it's unfortunate this happens. And you know, obviously, I already know that the council has said they don't recognize me, nor would they ever recognize me. You know, it makes me feel not too great, but you know, I'm here. I'm here at the request of the mayor. I'm hired by the mayor, and she feels like she has the authority to do that, and that's why I'm here. So, for me, from moving from there to there, I don't want to do that, and I don't think it's necessary. If you don't want me to input or give you information on some things that I think are very vital to the city, I won't. But some of the other staff doesn't know that. They don't know some of the things that are happening right now. So, and I'm not keeping it to myself. I'm operating as a city administrator, trying to get things done. So I guess that's my only comments that I'd have at this time. I still think it's going to be up for interpretation.
I'd like to respond to that. I am deeply troubled by the fact that the mayor's feeling that we don't have to follow state law is now ratcheted up to the point where we're being told we have to sue her to get it right in this city. That is extremely troubling. That is not the direction the council wants to go, and we are trying to do everything we can short of lawsuits, short of that expenditure of taxpayer funds, to make this thing right. All we are asking is that you and the mayor follow the state law and the city law with regards to this matter. And your defiance and the mayor's defiance of that is extremely troubling to me.
Well, there is no defiance there. It's interpretation, and there doesn't need to be a lawsuit if things would go forward. I mean, it's the interpretation of the council that I don't know why they feel the way they do, other than they think it's been a violation, but she says no, her attorneys tell her no.
I think that the state law is quite clear on this. I don't think it's
about advice and consent.
Absolutely, by advice and consent.
What does
consent
advice and consent mean? Yeah, what does it mean?
What does it mean?
That's what I just asked.
When you consent to something, what does that mean? It means that you allow it.
Yeah, and you don't have to, do you?
No, and we haven't, but it goes on anyway.
There is no interpretation that says it has to be done. I mean, it doesn't say that if there's no consent, that it can't go forward.
When the president appoints a member of the Supreme Court, for example, you know, the Constitution says that he has to get advice and consent of the Senate. Does that mean that he can appoint that member of the Supreme Court and the Senate doesn't matter what the Senate says?
A little different level.
It's the same language though, and it's the same. I mean, words do have meaning, Mr. Hope.
Thank you.
That's all I've got to say.
I'd just like to make a comment.